What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 11 of The Juice.
We should have way more because we've been we wait a week or 2 weeks before we get on the next one. But
still, though, I mean, I think we're pumping them out better now than what we have in the past. And
yeah,
still, though, episode 11, man,
we're having fun with it.
that's pretty cool.
I'm having fun.
That's pretty dang cool.
11 is cool.
And today we have the Texas Hammer. What did Mark Zona call him? Did he call him that?
Keith Money Combs.
Keith Money Combs.
We got to ask him why he got the nickname Money. I mean, he's one up. I need to pull up his stats. I think he's like 3 million.
I could take
a lot
few guesses. I mean, I don't know. Probably if you were to go to MLFM Bass, it'd probably be crazy.
It's a lot.
It's a whole lot, and that's not even counting the team stuff.
He won 3 of those TTBC things. Those were pretty big. Those were bigger payouts than regular events, weren't they?
Yeah, those were so cool, man. That was the Toyota Texas Bass Classic, and they took anglers from MLF Bass and I think the
PAA.
Yeah, that was, man. They need to go back to that. That was really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, we got Mr. Combs on today.
Yeah. Before we get him on, I want to talk about last week's episode. We got some good feedback from that. With the really core. Cool. Man, I'm really glad those guys came in and talked to us. I think they did a good job.
They did.
There's still some naysayers out there, which that's to be expected. You know, all we can do is let them come on here and tell their story, and we got to take that at face value. Yeah. I feel like they did a good job. I did talk to some people that are like, nah, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of opinions that kind of go around that, and I mean, I for one was had my mind turned around from the guys. I would never say that I was one of those guys that were like, oh, this is the reason hydro ain't growing, because I knew it was more lake factors and other things that were going on with water level and stuff. But I will say that I had my doubts or questions about the spraying of see if that was affecting some things. And you know, after talking to those guys and super intelligent people who do their job very well, and I think they care about the lake just as much as the next guy. After hearing what they had to say, man, I was pleased with.
Yeah. I'm Team Core and Team, what was it, Weevil?
Team Weevil. There were some comments, man. Like, hey, let me know when that Weevil hat comes out.
When that Weevil merch hits the ground. We want some of that.
Weevil, man.
Well,
so man, there's some crazy things going on in the world, well, in the industry right now, I guess,
and
you
the
could
world.
say that. And the world, yeah, we got the stuff going on with Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah, we may not be bass fishing under a communist regime here, and
it's a bad deal what's going on over there.
Nonsense.
And thoughts and prayers go out to those people over there in Ukraine. And
yeah, we'll leave that topic for Joe Rogan. He's more
Joe Rogan can handle that one. But what about? And we're gonna talk about this with Keith a little bit, but I just want to talk about it between me and you right quick before we get him on. We've been to Ivie. We've seen the craziness of it last year, but I would say this year, man, it's gotten a little bit crazier.
That's probably because there's more people fishing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Way more boats out there. I talked to some guys that have been. We haven't made a trip yet this year, but I talked to several people that have been. Captain Ron was just out there.
Yeah, he struggled.
And they said when you and I went, it still hadn't quite clicked, right? There was still a bunch of boats came that weekend after the whole mess with the Team 6 guys. But now they say it's like, it's boat ramps full every day.
Correct. And what I'm gathering from the guys that are over there, you know, some guides that are over there that I know, they're not busting them. You know, it's not like you're catching a lot of fish a day, because you're not. And it sounds like some days, you know, you have those rare occasions where you catch, you know, 5 that may weigh 40 plus pounds, but for the most part, you know, you're out there head hunting for one bite a day, and probably gonna have a high chance of zeroing. But we just had the record. My record now officially will fall hard on its
shattered.
Face. Yeah, we got an 11-pound.
Did you think there was one that big in there?
Man, I really didn't. I really did not.
I didn't either. I was thinking an 8 or a 9.
But now I'm all ears. Like, I really think, you know, I had a guy comment on the post I shared on Facebook of the guy, because he put the video up, cast to catch, catching the fish, and it was not caught on A-rig, so that's how I know it will count. Definitely a hybrid. You can see it in the coloration of the fish. But
Yeah, we're basically experts on that fish.
Yeah, we are at this point.
Yeah.
But somebody commented, hey, man, like if they catch a 13 plus, is that going to go into the share linker program? That's a good question. And I think because, it's not a pure blood largemouth.
I don't think it will because they don't have a share linker program for smallmouth.
Yeah, because they didn't think it'd get 13 plus.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like a share linker program for smallmouth would be like what,
maybe,
an 8-pounder,
right?
Like a 7-pounder or something.
Maybe not in. Is share linker program just for Texas? Is that like a Texas
yes,
thing?
Yes, it's a Texas thing.
So maybe I mean, not in Texas. They probably don't do that, but I don't know. That's a good question, man. Imagine if they started.
I bet Keith knows the answer.
He might. Yeah, let's get Combs on, man.
Yeah.
Oh, did we mention the 17-pounder that was called an OHIV though?
No, you did though just now.
We're gonna get into all the OHIV madness here
1706. I want to know the measurement of that fish.
New lake record.
Like the length. That looked like one of the longest bass I've ever seen. That thing's 30 plus inches.
You think it was long?
I think it was huge. That dude caught it in a walleye boat.
Oh.
It was like a walleye ranger, so he had a big, long live well, and there's a picture of it with the sun, and the thing is like as long as the whole live well. It's got to be over 30 inches.
It's going to go down as the 7th biggest bass caught in Texas history. So, crazy stuff, man.
Let's get Dr. Combs. I call him Dr. Combs.
Dr. Combs.
We're tight like that. See what kind of mood he's in today.
Hello.
Is this Keith Money Combs?
What's up, man?
Oh, not much, man. Appreciate you coming on.
You bet. Looking forward to it. How are y'all?
Doing good, man.
Good.
It's cold outside. I'm tired of that. I'm ready to spawn myself.
Yeah, it's pretty cold.
Yeah, winter got here and it got here for real.
Just laid down. You just got back from Florida though. How was the weather in Florida?
Man, it was all over the place. We had 2 tournaments and like 4 different cold fronts. So it was very hard to stay up with the fish because like no place on earth Florida fish are affected by weather. I mean, they're just any weather change amplifies those fish in that state more than any place I've ever been. And man, it was a challenge.
Bing bong.
Do you think that's because the lakes are shallower there? Why do you think it is? I'm curious.
Yeah, man, I think it's just kind of, and I think it's like parts of Texas too, like down around Choke Canyon or Falcon. When you get a cold front down there, it just it shuts them down bad because I think they're just so accustomed to that tropical type temperature, and they're like, man, this weather sucks. I'm just gonna clam up for a couple days, and then things will be good again. So they just they just kind of lightweight.
A temperamental species in those areas for sure.
Oh my gosh,
they're soft.
Yeah, and then, they're soft skins, but man, I don't know. And some things, really fool you down there too, because you if you're getting bit on a cold front, then you look at the long range forecast and you think, well, man, it's going to warm up. It's going to make my bite better. That's not always the case. It's like you've got to show up and figure them out every single day.
I've always wanted to fish Florida, but I hear these horror stories about how it can just shut off like that. It makes me not want to drive all the way down there.
Yeah, you might want to, if you're going to get to go, you might want to have a few weeks to fish because, unlike here, I think there's days where you just can't be really successful, depending on the weather. So
yeah.
At least, Rayburn or something like that, you can always move out deep and find some winter fish or something like that. Well,
Texas is definitely better. I get what you're going at.
Well, I tell you but when you do land on them in Florida, when everything comes together, that place is magic.
Yeah,
sure.
No, it looks like that for sure. Well, man, I wanna hear the Keith Combs story. I think that's a story that needs to be told. So I kind of want to hear if you'll take us through a little history lesson on how you got into bass fishing and when how you progressed to where you are now.
Well, it's been a journey. It's been a long road. For me, I started tournament fishing at the age of 13, just fishing local stuff around Texas. And, in those days, there was no defined path to say, well, next step, I'm going to go fish high school tournaments and college tournaments, and then I'm going to have all this information on how to become a pro.
Sure.
It was just kind of feeling it out, and it took me from the time I was 13 to I believe 31 until I actually got to fish my first professional event. And I started fishing with the FLW, and back then it was the FLW Series and the FLW Tour. So that's kind of where I started that year. The next year, I quit a job that I was, doing really well at, and just kind of took a chance. I was 32. I moved to West Texas, down at Amstead, and just started focusing on my career as a fisherman, learning, learning the ins and outs on the tour and sponsors, and how to promote yourself, and that was where it started, and man, that's been, gosh, I mean, I think 12 or 13 years or 15 years, I don't know, a long time, but that's how I got started.
So when did you move down to South Texas? You said around Amistad, Falcon area. When did you move down there?
I believe it was 2008, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you guiding at that time, or did you move down there with the intentions to guide and to maybe supplement some income for the tournament stuff, or how did that all work? 'Cause I know you did a little bit of guide work down there, didn't you?
Yeah, I had never done any guiding prior to that, and it was just a good opportunity. I was working with Power Tackle. They were based out there.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted me to kind of be close to them, kind of help with some promotion on the with a new company, and the fishing was extremely good at Amstead. Ray Hanselman was down there. He was guiding full time. Been doing it for years, and he had an overflow, and I was able to kind of take some of his overflow and kind of establish a client base. But it was just a good opportunity, because going into tournament fishing, I had no sponsors, didn't know what to expect, didn't know if I could compete, too many unknowns.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just something I could do and say, well, I can make money in the off season doing this, and if I fall on my face the first year, at least I'll have some money in the bank to pay my entry fees the second season. So that was what I was thinking.
Sure.
Okay. Cool.
How much of that? So down there, I mean, like you said, you hinted to that you were down there in one of the prime times. I remember that little window down there, 2008, 2011. It was just going off down there. Amistad, Falcon, lots of giant bags, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was some of at Amstead. It was some of the most incredible numbers. Just of solid fish. Your 3 to 5 pounders. It was a constant flow of them. And you could literally pull up to any flat on the lake and put your boat in 20 or put your boat in 5. Cast the Texas rig out there and get bit. It was that easy.
Awesome.
And I'm not joking. It was that good. And then Falcon. Falcon was the one that became even more famous than Amstead for putting out big ones. And I was going between those two lakes. So it was a good time to be down there.
Yeah. So, I mean, even in your career, you've kind of been known as that big bass guy. Like you're the guy that people look to bring in these mega bags, these hammer bags. How much of that fishing down there and those experiences, how much of that did that kind of shape how you fish today?
All of it. I mean, I started, when I was 13, I was fishing in Central Texas, and then we started fishing tournaments North Texas, South Texas, Central Texas, just traveling around fishing whatever we could. And I did that for 12 or 13 years, just fishing all of that stuff. And then there was those years where I was at Amstead and Falcon. And when I look at the way I fish now, when I have a professional event, I don't fall back to those years from Central Texas. I fall back to those 5 or 6 years that I was in Southwest Texas. The cranking style and things like that I've developed that I'm comfortable with. That's all from Falcon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I tell people, that the best way. Sometimes somebody will ask me a question like, "Man, what's the best way to get better at bass fishing?" And I always tell them the same thing. I say, fish a lot and fish the best places you can, because if you're fishing a lake where, a good day is 13 or 12 pounds and you're only going to get 6 or 7 bites, you're just not going to learn much about bass, and get your confidence up in multiple techniques. But if you got a lake that you can get 40 or 50 bites on and a couple big ones every day, you're going to learn a lot in a very short period of time. And luckily for me, that was that beginning of my career when those lakes were so good.
For sure. That's a really good point.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So now we'll shift to your professional career here. So you start off with the FLW tour. How long did you fish with FLW before you qualified or switched over to the elites?
I believe I fished 3 years.
Okay.
I was fishing the FL. Back then they had 2 tours that were really, man, it was awesome, because I could fish the 6 or 7 events on the FLW tour, and I could fish 4 other events on the FLW series, and all of those events paid $10,000 for the top 50 at least, and they paid $100,000 for first. So it was a lot of opportunity to make money throughout the year. It gave me 10 or 11 events. I fished with them, and I was very content with fishing that. And then there was just one year that the opens just really, really lined up perfect for me. And they went to Red River, they went to Texoma, and they went to Amstead.
Oh,
that
nice.
Was 2000. Yeah, it was 2010. So I just fished those as kind of a side gig. Won the points, got a chance. At that time, the points was what got you into the classic. So by winning the points, I got to go fish my first classic. And,
oh, nice.
Yeah, so I made a decision to try the elites. I was qualified for the elites, and 2011 will be my first season. So I stopped fishing the FLW tour at that point and just moved over to the elites, and
Sure.
been there ever since.
From your perspective back then, did you feel like the elites was the top tier of the sport at that time?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's a couple things you have to look at there. It was definitely getting. I think they were doing a better job probably with the media.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly. I don't want to say anything bad about either tour, because they've both been so good to me.
Sure.
But what I do remember, one thing I do remember about watching the elites before live, back when it was just a TV show, is they were going to these lakes like Gunnersville and Amstead and Falcon, and they were breaking 100 pounds. And I think I just watched that, and I wanted to be a part of that. I'm like, man, they always have a good schedule. They go to these hammer lakes, and I think I'll be successful fishing that way. And I was excited about that. So I think that was one of the things that really made up my mind, was just at the time that just I wanted to go fish for 100 pounds in a tournament.
No, that's actually, now that you bring that up, I do kind of remember that. I always felt like the FLW tour was like the same stinking schedule every year. It was like they went to the same Douglas Lake, Smith Lake, all these kind of,
Right.
Those mid-south lakes over there around Alabama, Tennessee River stuff. And they had a couple stops that were really good and fun to watch. But for the most part, it was, there's a bunch of spotted bass lakes in there and stuff. Bass definitely had it going on with that event. So when did you win? What was your first professional win?
In 2010, I think it was 2010 or 2011, I won a PAA on Tawankani, and the PAA was a pretty big deal at that point.
Yeah.
So that was really, that was competing against a lot of the same guys that I was competing against my entire career. They were there. It was about a $60,000 or $70,000 payday. So that was my first.
Yeah.
And I won that, right before I kind of put a little bit of money in the bank to make the switch to the elite.
Nice.
Good timing.
Nice.
Yeah, you got to have good timing because
Absolutely.
I think it, it, I think a lot of people don't realize how big the financial commitment is to get into the sport. It's huge. I mean, for a young guy in his late 20s, early 30s, like a lot of us are when we start, um, if you don't have some kind of bankroll, man, it's hard to say. Well, man, I gotta come up with 80 grand to go do this for a year, and no guarantees I'm going to win 80 grand. So it's pretty hard to get in. It's hard to get in, and then it's hard to be able to afford it.
Yeah, no, that's a subject we circle back to that almost every single episode. And I know you and I personally have had this conversation numerous times about how at the highest level of the sport it costs the most money, and that's not the way it should be. It shouldn't be like that.
It's certainly expensive. I mean, the what you're really dependent on is like Bass Elite. They give us a good platform to go out and promote our sponsors. So you have to be able to work both sides of that. They have through live and the website and the classic and all the things like that. They do have a great platform to promote your sponsors. But the thing you got to remember is starting out, you don't have any sponsors. Most people don't. I certainly had very, very few, or very, very little limited sponsor dollars coming in my first couple seasons, and it's part of the adventure, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm curious to get your perspective on this because you've been in the game for a while now, and so you've probably seen a shift in how sponsorship dollars are distributed and whether how much there is out there to actually grab and split among everybody. I mean, comparatively to when you started professionally compared to now, with there being the sport have obviously grown and there being so many young guys up and coming. I mean, how do you compare back in the day versus now? Is it more challenging, or do you feel like there's more dollars out there to be had?
I think there's I think it depends on when we're talking, what timeline we're talking about. Like I started in 2008, which was a recession year, and my first 3, 4, 5 years, it was just like every company you would talk to, it was just kind of one of those things. Well, we're just kind of holding our pro staff that we got right now. We're not expanding, so that was a very tough period. Now, prior to 2008, I think there were some very good deals available, and that was a really good time for the sport. And I think in recent years it's been it's been a little bit easier, and there's a lot of new companies and things like that. So a lot of new companies mean they want to get their name out there, so they're easy to sign up and coming fishermen. So I think we're at a fairly good time, but I do think that prior to 2008, I remember watching bass fishing back then, and then talking to some of the guys that were in the game back in the early 2000s. That was probably the one of the best times as far as making money and getting involved with sponsors.
Yeah, I guess I would think there's a couple of different factors from then to now, because you've got I think you got a lot of fishermen that have a good social media and YouTube presence now that they use now to their advantage, that they can kind of make money on from those actual platforms. And then back then, I think there was actually bigger non-endemic sponsors in the industry. Like you saw Jack Daniels and
Walmart.
You saw big names like that back then. They're kind of not there anymore. And so I guess there's it's kind of a double-edged sword, I guess you could say there, about how it's changed. That's part of how it's changed.
Sure.
But I could definitely see that. So
yeah,
it's always changing. I think
yeah.
you made a good point with that and that was FLW a lot. Well, not just FLW. Bass had some big ones too. I remember I think Chevron and Evan Williams, and I don't know. There was quite a few. Those were big hitters at Bass back then, and so they had some non-endemics too. But a lot of that big push in the non-endemic field was FLW in those early days.
Really? Okay.
Their involvement with Walmart. So.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, so now you've been in the elite since then, and a lot is changing, not just on the sponsorship front, but MLF comes out, and you did fish some of the MLF events before they were doing this BPT thing. You fished some of their TV show, but you didn't make a switch over when they kind of bought FLW out. I mean, what made you decide to kind of want to stay with Bass, or what do you think about that?
Well, yeah, I've been, in my career, I've been everywhere. I fished FLW. I fished a little bit with a couple of the MLF type, select type events, and fish bass. And I still go back from time to time and fish some of the lower level MLF stuff like the Toyota Series and things like that. So I like parts of all of them, But for me, I like where I'm at, and it's I'm comfortable with it, and I feel like some of the things about the Elite Tour just suit my style of fishing a little bit better.
Sure. Yeah, and I would say that. Man, I don't know if I should say this, but I was going to say.
You got to now.
I was going to say that I think a lot of people kind of see the elites as
Is that how you feel?
The top. I do feel that way.
I feel that way,
I
too.
feel like a lot of guys know, as Gleason referred to when he was on the show, like that is the
top.
That's the one, He's like, and he even wanted to say, if anyone tells you otherwise, they're lying. But, I guess people have different opinions. That's just kind of my opinion. But I think that's overall, I think if you took a vote in the bass fishing world, I think the elites would be there.
Yeah. I think that's pretty clear, too, with the Opens field.
Correct.
The Opens field really kind of gives it away. Like, look at how many guys are desperately trying to qualify.
If the Opens field wanted to open it up to what they could get in it, it'd be ugly.
500 boats.
It'd be ugly. You know what I mean? And not to take anything away from MLF, not at all, because Combs just said he fished a Toyota Series. Why would you not? They got a Toyota Series championship.
He just rolls home and wins one real quick, and he goes back on the road.
He did win one here on the Big Pond, right?
Last year.
Yes.
You dominated that one.
Dominated.
Hey, we all get lucky from time to time.
Here we go.
He did it in Combs fashion. He's just smashing big bags.
He did.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, that was a good day. But no, I mean, I think I think a professional. I think, and not just professional, like guys fishing semi-pro with the intention of getting to the pros sometime, and definitely anybody that's professional. It's better for us if there's a lot of competition amongst the leagues. So there's not like a league that I'm like, well, I don't like that league. I mean, competition in the marketplace is good. That's a good thing for the anglers. Now it may be painful for the leagues. Of course, one of them is going to say, well, I want all the sponsor dollars. But
right.
I think in the long run it's a good thing. And I mean, I support all the bass fishing leagues.
Yeah.
I've tried to do that throughout my career. That's why I fished, at every place at some point. Fishing PAA, fished bass, fished, a couple MLF, fished the FLW stuff. Because I think they're all important, and if we're going to see the sport grow, it would be really good if they would work together a little bit better.
I think they have a little bit more this year, haven't they? Because last year, didn't MLF or whoever it was, y'all were like on top of each other. There was an elite event at the same time there was a BPT event. You didn't know which one to live. It felt like it was just trying to butt heads for no reason when there's plenty of time to go around. And it seems like this year they didn't quite do that. Like they're not on top of each other.
Not so far that I know of. I haven't really looked at the schedule between the two, but I think you're right. I don't think it's as bad as it was last year.
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware of.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I haven't checked it out, but I'd like to be able to fish more things. This year I'm fishing the Elite Series and Central Opens, and that's a pretty full plate. I'm looking forward to it. We have awesome schedule in both of them, really. But it'd be really cool if I could kind of just pick and choose and fish a few events here and a few events there. That would be, man, that for the guy trying to make a living off of earnings, man, that would be awesome. You see, guys occasionally do multi-tours like John Cox did it. I've seen Ish do it a few times. I mean, but it's very few guys do it extremely successfully because it's just so much traveling, I love to see a world where we can just kind of move around and just kind of say, well, look, that guy's a legitimate pro. He can fish whatever he wants. That'd be a dream world.
Right. Yeah, we elaborate on that. We talked about that a little bit before we recorded. You kind of have this idea, and obviously you don't have all the answers yet, but the gist of your idea is that once you reach a certain level in your career, I don't know what kind of designation you give such person, but like yourself, I'd say you're there, or someone else that's been in the sport and done well, like a Rick Clun or somebody like that, that can just step in and jump around from tour to tour and just jump in an event. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Well, I think that would be great if there was, and like I said, I don't know all the answers to how you would say, well, this guy's the guy. Maybe it's an earnings thing. Maybe you say, well, okay, cool. You make $2 million in the sport of bass fishing, whether it's you look at all your professional events. Okay, you made $1 million with bass, you made $1 million with FLW. Then there's a league, that you can fish, and maybe that league has other fishermen in it too, that are trying to stay in the league. But I think it would be really great if there was a point in fishing and professional fishing where you're just, look, you say, well, that guy's a legitimate pro. He has been there, done that. He's put his life into the sport, been successful, got multiple wins. Well, I think either tour, MLF or Bass would greatly benefit from having that guy fish their events. And I think people would, that guy's, of course, going to have a following with fans. So,
sure.
At that point, I think it definitely benefits the fishermen. But it would, benefit the leagues as well. I think,
No, I can see that for sure.
Bing bong.
It's just kind of pick and choose, and maybe you're not even really fishing with the intent to make a championship. Just like, well, man, that's a great tournament there. It's at Toledo in June. I want to go fish that.
Yeah. And, give yourself a shot at $100,000.
Yeah, because that's, those are the most fun tournaments. Is like the Bassmaster Classic or any of the championships, the TTBCs. Back when we used to have those, that's when you could just show up and say, I don't have to worry about points. I don't have to worry about requalification.
Here for the W.
I go for the W, and you just, that's a good feeling when you get to show up and actually do that. But
that's actually
that is a really good point.
That's a really good idea, actually. Now I'm thinking about it. Like, imagine if Combs would have gone and jumped in this fork event on the BPT. Like, hey, guys, I'm going to fish this one with you. That's cool. People would be tuning in. They'd be like, uh-oh.
Yeah, there are probably some guys that didn't want him there.
Oh, sure. I'm sure there'd be a bunch of crybabies. Wheeler would be over there crying.
Why are you going to say his name?
Because I don't like the guy.
Jesus.
Sorry.
See what you did, Keith?
Sorry. He's never going to come on the show now.
Yeah, I'm going to stay out of all that.
He said he's going to stay out of all that. Watch whether Dakota was in the lead when we left
Nah.
watching live, and now look, you're gonna wake up
Nah,
the
man.
beast.
Nah, man. Dakota's got it.
All right, well, we ain't looked
I
in a
haven't
little
checked
while.
ScoreTrack.
I hope he does.
But so if Combs were to jump in that, like that event is a fastball in his wheelhouse, maybe not this time of year, but your history on fork is pretty good.
Yeah, no, for sure, and I really it all goes back to what the Texas Toyota, or was it Texas Toyota Bass Classic, the TTBC.
And
TTBC. Keith, you had a good run in those. You won 3 of those, I believe, and that's what that event kind of was. It was, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a mixture of some Bass, MLF, and PAA guys that came and slugged it out for not a championship, but for one tournament. And that's pretty much what you're talking about, is doing something like that again.
Yeah, I mean, they took the top 50. It was a standalone event, so
Right.
It was just all about showing up and trying to win. So and it was a stout field because it was the top 15, just the top 15, in points from FLW, from Bass, from PAA. They all met up, at Fork, or we had it at Conroe a couple of years, and it was a big payday, $150,000, no entry fee.
And you crushed their dreams.
It was good. It was a good circuit for me, close to home. I guess.
Yeah.
Did you win on Conroe twice in Fork, or was it Fork twice in or Falcon? I forget. Tell me what those 3 were.
I won 2 at Conroe.
Okay.
And then I won 1 at Fork.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Which one is the Conroe? Was it the first or second Conroe one that you had to fish off with Iconella and he totally lost his cookies on that one? Like, just lost it.
Well, that was 2000. I think 2011. 2011 at Conroe, and so all right. Well, he did have a little tantrum at the It was funny, but I mean, really, me and him caught. We had like a 25-pound lead over third place, and we're tied at the. It was like an unbelievable lead up to that weigh-in, because it's one. I mean, how often does that happen? Okay, so
very rare.
Say you go out and you fish for 3 days and you got a 25-pound lead. You should win that tournament. I don't care. I mean, if it's me, if it's Iconelli, either one of us should win that tournament. But then we're tied. We're tied at the top, and we get on stage, and this is for $150,000. Mercer tells, he's the MC, he says, well, there's a tie. There's going to be a fish off. Y'all know what, or you know what the tiebreaker is? And we're like looking at each other like, well, I don't know. Can we arm wrestle? I don't know. But he says, you're going to go back out and you're going to fish till somebody catches the keeper.
Oh my gosh.
And then we're going to call you. We'll call your judge. He'll weigh it. Whoever catches it first gets a phone call and says, hey, you lost. I mean, man, you talk about an emotional
pressure.
Gosh, it's just, yeah.
How long did it take you to catch one?
It took like 3 hours.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
So here's the deal. I never thought there was going to be a fish off. So I had big crankbaits, and that's it.
You didn't have no drop shot or nothing.
I didn't even have a Texas rig. I was committed to try to win that tournament, and that's all I had. That's all I had on my boat. Maybe I might have had a jig. I don't know, but they let us go, and I see Iconelli. Which if you ever looked at his boat, he's typically got like 30 rods on the deck. He spins off to the dam, and I'm just putting my boat on pad. He's already making a cast with a wacky rig or a shaky head or something. I mean, yeah. I'm thinking this is gonna be bad, and I'm rotating through all of these, places where I caught big ones and during the tournament, and I'm not getting bit, and I'm just waiting for that phone call. And finally, I hook up, and I just remember thinking, as I'm reeling in this 3-pounder, 2.5-pounder, whatever it is, I'm thinking, my phone's gonna ring. My phone's gonna ring. I'm wincing on this thing, trying to get to the boat, flip it in. I tell my judges, "Are you calling? Are you calling?" He's calling while we're weighing, and I didn't. I remember asking the tournament director Randy Knight. I was like, "So is it over? I mean, do I let this fish go? What do I do?" It was just chaos. It was so cool.
That is crazy.
Did you ever watch the video of his?
Oh yeah, I've watched it.
It's one of my favorites.
He freaked, dude.
Oh, he heard the phone ring and he turns. He looks at his marshal. He's like, "Is it him? Is it him?" And then wham, just slams his rod.
Slams it. Dude, but I can't believe it took 3 hours. I did not know that. I thought maybe you went out there and busted one in like an hour or something, like 30 minutes. That's crazy.
No, we were out there. I thought I was in a real bind because if we didn't catch one by dark, if nobody caught a fish by dark, then we had to go back out the next day. And he had a great starting hole. He was crushing them in the morning, and I didn't have that. I was fishing brush piles and drops, and one fish at a time, but they were all big ones. So that was either way. I was stressed out, and just,
I can only imagine.
I mean, I don't know. I'm sure I would have had a slightly different reaction than Mike, but at the same time, man, the pressure leading up to that, it's just like I said.
That's funny.
You feel like, okay, what else do I got to do to win this thing? I've caught, I think, 80 pounds of bass in 3 days. I got a 25-pound lead. Shouldn't it be over? And then nope, y'all got to have a fish off.
Wow,
crazy time. Yeah.
At least you got the win.
Thank God. I need it.
But going back to that, man, that would be a great event to bring back. And I know the PAA is gone, and I probably wouldn't put the NPFL guys in there. I don't think that should happen. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that out loud. I already
Something
did.
you want to talk about?
No, I'm good. I'm just saying the PAA was a little different, I think. But maybe just take more from the top from bass and more.
Well,
from
you
the
got
top
3
down.
events. You take BPT guys, elite guys.
Okay, yeah, correct.
And pro circuit guys.
Correct. And take 15 of each or something.
Yeah, whatever.
And let them slug it out. Who hosted that event?
Toyota.
That was
Texas
just
Parks and Wildlife, actually.
Okay.
Right?
Yep, Texas Parks and Wildlife and Gulf State Toyota was a big sponsor.
Okay.
And, it was certainly a really, really fun event with, a stellar. Nobody would question, that field. And I'd love to see something come back, even if it's not like a full tour. Just it would be great if one of the leagues said, "Well, look, here's 3 events or something like that. That pretty much, okay, anybody who's won $2 million in the sport of bass fishing, come on, bring it on. There's no championship, there's no nothing. This is just a big, very competitive tournament."
Legends League.
It might surprise you who all would be in it. It's not just going to be a bunch of old guys. There's a lot of guys who make $2 million or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So, and I don't know if that's. I just kind of threw that out there. I don't know if that's a good basis, but I don't know how else you would do it. But I guess after 10 or 15 years of doing this, earnings is a pretty good indicator of a guy's career, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think so too.
But that tournament was just based on that year, So if you were a high performer in your league, you could qualify for the TTBC.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
I like it.
I think people liked it too, because you were always like, I think, Wyatt, you were talking earlier, you're like, well, I think the better fishermen were at Bass, or I think the better fishermen at FLW. Well, that's always been a debate.
Oh, yeah.
I fished them all, so I'm not going to get into that, because there's good fishermen everywhere in all the leagues.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, I think this concept would be a real big hit with the fans, because they wonder about that. They're like, well, I see these guys catching them, but could this group catch them better?
Right.
Well, you kind of merge. It'd be cool to at least a few events every year, just kind of merge merge, and then you see, you'll kind of see where it's at.
Right.
I think we need to put it on.
I wasn't referring to the elites being better anglers. I was just referring to it to be a better organization, mainly because of the Bassmaster Classic.
Yeah,
that's the shebang right there.
It's got a prestigious feel around it,
right? Well, and that's what I meant by that. But I do see what you're getting at though, for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think people are. I mean, if you probably talk to 10 hardcore bass fishing fans, they probably all have different opinions, but you'd probably find that they're all very opinionated on where they think the best fishermen are. You know, one or the other. So bringing them together is just something that I think would captivate the audience a little bit more.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I think we need to put it on.
You gonna put it on? You gonna put it on, Shane?
The juice. We'll put it on.
I don't know if we got that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, money for that.
All
man.
the sponsorship dollars we got rolling in this place.
Yeah, we don't have a single sponsor.
We don't want sponsors.
If y'all got any offers out there,
nah, not yet.
Somebody's listening. Somebody's certainly listening. So what is it gonna be like?
Bust out the checkbook. We ain't cheap. I ain't a cheap date. I'm not a cheap date. Nah, man, let's do it. Let's put on a big tournament. We'll get Belt to do it.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was about to say. I mean, you're probably gonna get old Belt. You know, he ain't scared to put nothing on.
Get Belt and B-Rob. Just collaborate.
Hey, they did a great job with their tournament at Rayburn. That's a big deal.
Yeah, man.
Were you upset you didn't get to? What were you doing? You were in Florida at that time.
I was at a media event for Shimano.
Gotcha.
So I was out of pocket, and then I was going to go straight into the St. John's, or I would have been able to fish that. That would have been really cool.
Yeah, so it would have. You think if it would have maybe been at a different time, because that tournament is open to anyone. You think there'd been a lot more pros jump in that?
Yeah, I think the timing was tough because we're so busy trying to get ready for the beginning of the season or at the start of the season, But
Gotcha.
But I understand, that's also a great time to have a tournament at Rayburn too.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But
I think there'll be more jump in it next year.
Yeah, I was just wondering, kind of as far as conflict, like on a pro side, if that like $100,000 team tournament, if that would that's enough to catch your eye, as far as being a lead or MLF Touring Pro or BPT or whatever it may be.
No, absolutely. I mean, I would think you would have, if it works with the schedule. There's just not a lot, and there's not a lot of tournaments where we get that we're actually even allowed to fish because a lot of them have entry fee rules. But that one does not, and I do think you'll see some guys that are top level tour pros team up with another top level tour pro and get involved in that, and I think that'll be interesting to watch.
Right,
bring it.
I think that'd be great for the organization as well, for Brandon.
No, for sure, to have a little more exposure, have some more.
Correct.
Man, he's gonna fill that 400 boats next year, no doubt.
Yeah, I don't know how many they had?
327.
That's still pretty dang good.
That's a lot
for the first one ever, and for $1,000.
Pretty rare on your first one to do that.
$1,000 entry fee, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty dang good.
I
think they did good.
And some pretty rough weather too, right?
Oh, that sucked. It sucked bad. It was cold, wet, windy.
If only Shane would have listened to me, we probably would have won it. But
man.
I'm just messing with you.
What did I do?
I'm just messing with you, man.
I mean, maybe I would have won it if I'd have got to fish with combs.
Oh man, that's I can't. The only thing I can say to that is I caught a 6-younder that day with you. So
yeah, we both did.
Yeah, we helped the cause.
We both caught one. Nah, man, we had a good.
That was a good time.
We had a good.
But y'all did good. I was keeping up with it. I was somewhere where it was dry and warm, but I was keeping up with it.
Yes, sir.
It was a lot of fun. We're looking forward to it next year. Hopefully you guys do get to come jump in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's just I enjoy fishing a tournament around this area. That's just cool to we don't get a lot of opportunities, to do that. Maybe once or twice a year there's actually something close, that I get to go fish and stay home, and that would be one of them. But that's $100,000 with a relatively low comparably a relatively low entry fee.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I think you're going to see more of that. I think you're going to see more of these one-off big payday events because it was so popular. I mean, just like the shootout's a popular one, that's another one-off event that everybody looks forward to. No points. It's a go for the win type of tournament.
Correct.
And big payday. And Brandon Belt took that to the next level.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. You know, and there's always a controversy. He'll run into it too. Some people are always going to say, "Well, pro shouldn't fish." But I mean, it's $100,000. You know, I mean, to me, that's a very serious tournament. So,
yeah.
I'm hopefully there's not a.
No, I don't think he'll ever do that, man. You got to keep that open. Look, if you want the opportunity to fish for $100,000, just know there's going to be some heavy hitters. So
yeah,
you got to. If you don't want to fish against those guys, then don't.
Yeah, I guess just
don't fish for $100,000.
Don't fish for $100,000. I guess, and they got some exciting things coming that may even open the door to some pros to be able to jump in. And
yeah, man, I'm curious to see where the sport goes and evolves, and a lot of things changing and shifting. So, man, I mean, how do you feel about your start to the elite season so far? You got 2 events down. You had one really good finish. One, you probably weren't happy about. But how do you feel so far?
Well, yeah, the St. John's is where we started. I've had so many good tournaments on that place. I was definitely disappointed to go over there. I finished 68 in that tournament, and we had tough practice conditions, and I thought I had a very solid game plan, and I just had an area dry up on me. And it's one thing to kind of understand, well, the weather changed or the area received too much pressure, or, to understand why an area would dry up. I just had an area go away on me. And it bugs me that I really, after all these years, sometimes you just get blindsided. So I was pretty disappointed at the St. John's tournament. And then I was a little bit nervous going into the Harris chain because I know how good that place is fishing based on tournament results. And I've only fished there once before, so I didn't have a lot of history. And I was making a big, long run, a lot of variables, but it worked out. I had a good tournament there. And I think that our schedule is phenomenal this year. I mean, we're going to go to Santee Cooper next, and we're going to hit it probably as good as you can on paper. Something could always happen.
Sure.
But, I mean, Santee Cooper, Chickamauga, Fork.
Wow.
Ontario, La Crosse, Wisconsin, Oahe. We got some awesome tournaments.
That is a great schedule.
It's awesome.
That's great.
So I think I look forward to that. I have had a little hiccup at that one, but I know my best events are when it's a slugfest, and when a lot of guys are catching 18 or 20 pound bags. Those are the tournaments that I look forward to the most. I just like to take. I feel like I like to take more risks. And every year I think I get a little bit worse about this. But I like to take a lot of risks and try to win. There's times when most of the time you're not going to win, but at least the first day of a tournament, I like to try to put myself in a position to kind of stretch out there and take a lead. And that's a very hard thing to do when you're on a tough fishery. So if you're fishing,
good point.
If you're fishing a place like a Rayburn or something like that, or Falcon, well, if you kind of miss the first day, if your game plan kind of goes away on you, well, you can still come back and catch 35 pounds the next day and be back in it.
Yeah.
So, those are the type of tournaments I like the most, and we got a whole season of those, so I'm excited about it.
Well, we'll be rooting for you for sure.
No doubt.
I don't think I've ever seen you bunt, so I know you won't.
No, I think that's just kind of a over time. You just kind of at first you're trying to survive in the sport,
yeah,
and then you win a few, and you're like, this is. You remember what you came there for,
Yeah.
You don't go fish we don't go fish a local tournament to cut a check, you know.
Not supposed
try
to
to make
anyway.
a championship. You know, we try to go win it.
Yeah.
So, sometimes it'll come back to bite you, but I like my chances on the schedule we got. It's a great one.
There you go.
Well, man, looking forward to watching you the rest of the season. One more thing before we let you go. I know you've been busy over in Florida. Have you seen what's been going on at Ivie?
Yeah, I keep up with that.
Did you see that 17?
I saw that new lake record. I mean,
Gross.
That's one of the biggest ones to come out of Texas in, 20 years?
I think they said 30. It's the largest share lunker in 30 years.
Yeah. It's gonna go down as the 7th biggest bass in Texas ever.
Yeah, 7th largest bass.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. That I've seen that lake cycle a lot during my career. I was in high school, and I went to fish Ivie when it was filling, and all the trees were green, and it was absolutely full of 2-pound fish. It was full of them. Didn't have big ones back then.
Yeah.
A lot of smallmouth. But then it just it was a really good lake to go to, but it never could keep water in it. You know, it'd always get low, and kind of like Falcon and Hempstead, it get low and it get tough. And then there was, a year in the early 2000s where it caught water, and man, they were catching 16-pound fish instantly, and now we're back in that phase again where it's caught water, and it just makes you wonder if Ivie could ever sustain, could actually get to a full pool and sustain it. How good that place would be for big fish.
It'd be gross.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people after that 17, you see everybody going crazy on Facebook, like their new state record coming out of that place.
Very possible.
I mean, at this point, how could you deny anything?
It's a pound away. I mean, a pound and a half, and it's a new state record.
Correct.
Yeah, it's most likely it's in that lake, and most likely it's going to get caught. I would say,
I need to get down there because Combs just said that. Maybe I'll get lucky.
Man, you only catch trash fish when you go down there. So
yeah. Well, what about that 11-pound trash fish that was just caught, man?
Did you see that one?
Mm-hmm. I saw that.
Uh,
That's disgusting.
Yeah, Ivie's the place to be for the trophy hunter for sure. I mean, I just think those are a lot of young bass that are growing really fast with the water conditions they have. But when you look at that lake, I don't know what makes the bass grow so fast in Ivie, because it's not like a real tropical area. It's not warm all the time like Choke Canyon, or it doesn't have a ton of hydrilla.
No.
It's not what you think about when you're thinking about the perfect bass lake. But for whatever reason, the bass grows giant in Ivie, and they're still growing.
It's got to do with forage. There's got to be something in there.
They got to be eating on something, man.
Didn't Casey say and Zach say that when they were catching those big ones, they were throwing up baby carp or something weird? They were throwing up some kind of weird bait fish.
Is there not gizzards there?
I don't know.
There's got to be.
I'm sure there's gizzards, threadfin shad. I remember that it had a huge bluegill sunfish population. Of all the times I've been there when I would fish shallow, I would see just acres of brim beds. But yeah, I mean, there's probably something there. There's possibly something that they're foraging on that we're missing, because what's making them grow so big?
They probably ate all the smallmouth in there, or most of them. 17-pounder eating 4-pound smallmouth.
This question was brought up to me not long ago. I just want to get your opinion on it. Like, they talk about how I had one of my buddies kind of say, like, imagine what some of the guys could have done back in Amistad or Falcon's heyday with forward-facing sonar. Could they have? Do you really think it would have made that much of a difference? Could they have caught that much bigger fish? I mean, I personally don't think so. I think that what was going on at Amistad and Falcon was you didn't necessarily need it. I could be totally wrong. But without forward-facing sonar on OHIV, man, you're kind of shooting in the dark.
This time of year, yeah, you're just...
Well, this time of the year is when all the giants are being
Yeah,
caught.
for sure.
You know what I mean? I'm talking teeners, like
Mhm.
multiple of them. So I don't know. That was kind of a question that I thought would be interesting to get your opinion on.
I think, I think, yeah, I think we certainly could have caught them better, no matter the fishery. Um, I know that at Hempstead and Falcon, I wasn't, I was fishing fish that were related to cover a lot, rock piles or wood or grass or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where I see guys on Ivie just targeting fish in just open water.
Right.
Now whether, but you have Ivie that has a lot of open water. We had brush in 20 foot in Amstead and Falcon back then. It would be interesting to really to have had it back then, just to see if we thought it was awesome fishing up, flipping trees or fishing rock piles, but were there bigger fish out there in open water, that are, just out there because they can't be targeted as easily?
Right.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah.
It's opening up my eyes to a new way of bass fishing.
No doubt.
For sure. Yeah.
100%. 100%. So.
Yeah. Look at what's going on in Fork right now.
Yeah, I mean,
the VPT guys are all sitting there staring at the screens, basically. Even the guys that are throwing crankbaits to the bottom of stumps.
Well, Keith, you fished some of these tournaments. Well, I saw on Bassmaster Live some of these guys looking at reed lines, fishing for bedfish, watching their live scope. Like, what is that about? Like, were they using forward-facing sonar to look at bedfish? Like, I remember specifically seeing that from a couple guys, like, panned on the reed line while they're fishing for a bedfish, looking at their screen and setting the hook. And I'm like, are these guys using forward-facing sonar for bed fishing? Did you hear about any of that going on? What was that?
I think there's a potential to do that,
Yeah.
especially on a bigger fish that you can pick out and cover really easily.
Right.
I think the main thing is, there's so many casts. There's so many casts that you make in a day. They're just you're not casting at a fish at all.
Right.
And with that, you don't have to do that. I mean, you can fire a cast out and kind of look around for your next cast. And, I mean, I was brought up on fishing. Okay, well, that's a good looking patch of grass, flip at that, but there may not be a fish there, With this, yeah, you can see that. Once you learn how to read that, you can see and make more educated casts. And the other thing is just, I mean, we're seeing guys catching fish in water that we would have never
fished before.
fired a cast. Yeah, so it's just, I think it just makes makes every one of your casts a good cast. And then just being able to see a fish, which, I mean, I'm a guy who, like, I fought like using a lot of live stuff. I mean, I've used it here and I've used it there, but I'm always kind of like, well, I like to catch them the way I like to fish. I don't want to change that. So this isn't for me. But no, it's a very valuable tool. It's something you got to have. And if you want to compete, you probably should embrace that technology.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah. Although I think there's still, I think if you look at everything in bass fishing, just take, for example, like right now, there'll be a lot of debate on whether this should be allowed in tournament fishing or, not everybody has the same technology. So is that an unfair advantage? But there's a lot of controversy. Or is this going to be something that dominates the sport for forever? We heard the same thing about the Alabama rig. And while it's it's got its time, and when it's the right scenario, you better be using that thing if you can. It's not a everyday dominant thing, and I think that's what we're going to see with live. Where we understand it, next year and the year after that, we understand it more and more. And we're like, well, there's a situation where, okay, it's cold and the fish are suspended around wood. I need to use my live sonar. Or, it's hot and the fish are, moving fast and they're doing something totally different. well, I can just go back to conventional fishing. So I think we'll see a time where it's dominant and a time where it's not even used. Just kind of like the Alabama rig.
Yeah, I see that. I can see that.
Well, man, we're gonna watch you catch them on Mega Live this year, I guess. So.
Yeah, man, I've worked really hard getting my boat ready. I'm running 360. I'm running Mega Live, both, so I can kind of, see what's all around me, and then take the live and really look at the fish, look at my bait. So it's taken some, really, for me. I put live on my boat, and I didn't have it rigged properly at first. I mean, that's another thing too. I mean, you got to get it set up, and your batteries and your wiring and everything, if you really want to get a good picture. But no, I'm looking forward to learning more about it this year.
There you go.
There it is.
There it is.
I was waiting for you to say something. Well, Keith, we appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you for your time. I know you're busy you're supposed to be out there breaking it in, but I guess you were, getting a little soft in your old age. Didn't want to go out there in the cold to break in the new motor.
That is correct.
Oh, man. Well, we really appreciate you coming on. Obviously you were one of the ones we wanted to have on from when we started this thing. So we finally got you back home and got a little time where we could talk. Man, we'd love to have you back, maybe in studio. Talk a little more smack about something else.
Let's do it. I had a great time, guys. Thanks for having me on. I look forward to the next time.
All right, man. Good luck season.
All right, thanks.
There you have it.
The doctor.
We've talked about some really cool stuff, man.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you brought up forward-face sonar because I'm curious to see how he uses it. We fished a bunch together, and he's been in my boat with it, and it's not his style. Let's just say that.
He said he fought it.
Yeah.
He said he fought it.
Yeah.
But it means something when, he says that and he admits that.
No, yeah, for sure. He knows.
And it does mean something. And I'm not one of these guys. We need to do a whole episode over forward.
We do need to do a forward facing sonar, and you know who I want to have on.
Yeah, let's not talk about any names.
No, hold on a minute.
Don't
listen.
I don't want to get any names.
Listen. We want him on. I want the people.
I don't know
who
who you're talking about.
Yeah, you do.
I have no clue.
Yeah. He's got real long hair. He's caught a lot of big fish. I don't know that he'll come on. Have you worked on that? I asked you if you'd work on that.
He's referring to getting Josh Jones on the show. Josh Jones, if you're watching this, which I'm sure you're not.
I'm sorry, and we'd love to have you on the show.
I don't know what. I'm not. What are you sorry about? What?
We'll just talk about it.
Anyways, we want to do a whole episode of forward facing sonar.
He'd be a great guy to talk to.
And I think Josh Jones, doing what he's done. If you haven't seen what he's done, he's now became the only angler in Texas history to catch 4 sharelunkers. So,
impressive, dude. The dude's impressive.
Yeah, but I think there's multiple people we could get on, other than just him. But he would be a good one to get on the show. And I'm sure I've been seeing a bunch of y'all that do follow the show that I've seen you on Facebook talk about Josh Jones. So I know y'all would like to see that episode.
We could have somebody from Garmin.
We could. Speaking of Garmin, if any of y'all can get your hands on one of those new transducers for your boy.
He's talking about me because he's obviously not going to get one.
I mean, I'll find one before it's all said and done.
Man.
Scoper's going to scope.
Then I'm going to have to tune it for you.
Oh, my gosh. Get out of town. Scoper's going to scope. But anyways, that was a great episode with Combs. And, man, I think our next guest, we really don't know who it is at this point. But I think
I'm going on vacation, so I really don't care.
Well, I mean,
when I get back, we'll figure it out.
We'll post this during next week, and that way we can get through that week, and then we have a whole week to. I'll figure out a way to get a hold of
a guest
of the forward-facing sonar guy.
Man, he's the man. I would love to have him on the show.
I'll figure it out.
It'd be interesting. Be a good conversation. I'm a nice guy.
Yeah, there's a lot of controversy that surrounds that guy on Facebook. And I'm not talking bad or good, for that matter, about either way about Josh Jones. I think what he's done is extraordinary. I think it speaks for itself. But
would you say he's the best at live scope? If not, who is the best?
I don't think there's anyone that's the best at live scope. I think that he has been able to stay because of his because of what he has built. He is able to stay on certain lakes that have very big fish on them, and he's very good with forward-facing sonar. So I think that there's no doubt that he's very good with it. But the best, I mean, how do you compare that? Do you compare it to a guy that's doing it in a tournament situation, who's using it?
Just say on paper.
But that's not. You see what I'm saying? In tournament wise, or like targeting big fish? Because I don't know how you compare that.
Like I said, we just got to do an episode on it. We just gonna.
How
have
would
to do an
you
episode.
feel about a month straight at OH Ivie using your forward-facing sonar? How do you feel like you'd come out? You feel okay about that?
I feel like I'd come out really, really good.
Okay, I mean, and I'm not saying, and I'm not downgrading.
God, that sounded really bad coming out of my mouth.
I'm not downgrading.
No, I feel like I would,
at all. But at the end of the day, live scope is a technique that's like you don't need to be 6'5" and 260 of muscle to you know what I mean? Like it's not like basketball or baseball. Like you don't need any crazy athletic ability to use it. All at the end of the day, you're working a foot pedal and you're throwing in front of the boat. So you can only be so good at it. There comes to a point where you can only get so good at it. At a certain point, you're not any better than that guy at putting a bait in front of that fish's face.
I like this. You're getting a little.
I'm just saying,
little energy going through you.
I'm just saying. At a certain point,
yeah,
you can't be that much better than it.
It could come down to also finding the big ones.
That's what it comes down to.
Also, he's the best at finding and catching very large ones.
That's a better way to put it.
Yeah, it's not a tournament situation.
I know. Don't get me started on tournament.
Hey, look at him. We got old Frankfurt over here. We got him a little fired up.
But I do 100% agree that.
Now
crazy.
I'd like to have a. We need to do. That's what we need to do in our next episode on. Just need to make it happen. Whether he comes on or whether we get somebody from Garmin or there's some other people. Maybe a Patrick Walters. Patrick Walters. I mean that what he did at Fork last year.
Cody Huff.
Cody Huff would be a great one.
Cody Huff because of. He kind of grew up.
Man, Cody, why didn't you tell me about the ice fishing jigs before they sold out everywhere?
They sold out?
Yeah, dude, I tried to buy some.
My man, no.
Man,
Cody killed it on
all you had to do is like drop a little hint, hey man, fixing to sell out of ice jigs. Like I don't think ice jigs have ever sold out.
Wild looking bait. Sure Apollo makes it?
Yeah.
Rapala?
They make 2 of them. Go watch that video on Wired Fish. It's pretty cool.
I've seen it.
But it was way deep. Like I don't know that we could use it here the way we use live scope.
Probably not as effective, but I've seen my Cody. Not Cody, Cody Barshinger. I've seen him
throw that.
Yep. So I know it would. Yeah, my man. No, sorry, Cody. I didn't expose you like that.
Oh,
he's done it. But what time frame were you at?
We need to shut her down.
We need to. We were just going.
I'd let you go for a minute there. You get fired up.
I get fired up. Look, I got no problem.
You don't?
I got no problem with nobody.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Well, man, Keith Money Combs, the doctor himself, that was cool to have him on.
The big bass specialist. I didn't mention it while he was on the phone, but he called. He hosts the biggest.
Is it record in the elite event?
MLF
event.
MLF FLW, the biggest bag that's ever been caught. 5 fish. It was like 41.
Ooh. So, in a pro event.
Correct.
Not like a BFL or anything like that.
It was like a I don't know what they were called at the time, but it was, I think, comparable to the Toyota Series or a tour event.
Yeah, tour event. Okay.
Yes.
No, he definitely knows how to catch giant ones. It's always really cool to talk to him. He's got so much knowledge to share. He's been in the game a long time, so I'm sure we'll have him back on for some other subjects. So,
and that's it, guys.
Yeah. Appreciate you watching.
Till next time.